Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Deji Badimasi, and of course, it's still the issue of the Chief Justice of Nigeria. And as we speak today, Chief Justice Walter Onnoghen seems to be the former Chief Justice of this country, because as we speak, the country now has an acting Chief Justice of the country, and it appears the executive arm of government is heading for a big face-off with the judiciary after President Muhammadu Buhari ordered the suspension of Chief Justice Walter Onnoghen. The president said he suspended the CJN following an order by the Code of Conduct Tribunal where the CJN now, I don't know whether to call him the former CJN now, had been standing trial for false assets declaration. The president has also sworn in the most senior justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Ibrahim Tanko Muhammad, as the acting CJN. Now, the shock of the suspension and swearing in comes at the same time his CCT case, I'm talking about Walter Onnoghen now, is still undecided, and the CJN is challenging the trial at the Court of Appeal, the National Industrial Court, as well as the Federal High Court. So has the president actually broken any law in his decision? Does he actually have the power? Well, he says he is actually acting on the orders of the Code of Conduct Tribunal. But does this conform to the Constitution of the country? Joining me now to discuss this further is Libros Oshoma, who is a lawyer and a political analyst. Libros, when you heard the story of the suspension of the CJN, Walter Onnoghen, tell me how you felt.
I felt the same way I felt the day Ken Saro-Wiwa was executed on the order of a tribunal. That's the same way I felt. I felt like that because that day I felt like, the judiciary is gone. And I remember that day I wore a black bandana or true from when I heard when the news broke. So that's
basically what has happened in this case is completely illegal.
Yes, because I've looked at the entire gamut of the Constitution, Section 153. I've looked at paragraph 2021 of the third schedule, part 1 of the Constitution. I've looked at Section 292, looking for a way, I try to look for where the president derived this power. And then even I've looked at the order, the purported order from the Code of Conduct Tribunal, the supposedly ex parte order that premised on an application dated the 19th of the
23rd of January.
No, the 19th of January, that the order was made on the 23rd of January. And we followed proceedings in the court that day. There was no time an ex parte application was moved. Even if you read the order, it wasn't stated there that the application was moved.
But first of all, what is the process for suspending a CJN?
If you look at the Constitution, if you look at paragraph 20, that constitutes the NJC. And then if you look at 21, it says the National Judicial Council shall have power to recommend to the president.
So if the president had acted on the recommendation of the NJC, this would have been in perfect
Yes,
order.
well, just like what happened in Justice Ayo Salami's case, the NJC recommended.
But funny enough, in the case of Ayo Salami, the NJC also asked that
exactly that was
the president at the time chose not to do so.
The president at the time chose not to do so, and we also criticized that decision at that time. I also at that point I felt, look, the executive keeps toiling with the judicial arm of government, and then the most painful part of it in all of this was just like it was during Justice Ayo Salami's time. Somebody when Justice Ayo Salami was illegally suspended and was removed from the office through the back door, somebody took that position in acting capacity. Just the same way today you have a justice of the Supreme Court also endorsing this illegality by taking on the acting position of the CJN. And so you begin to ask yourself, if you at this level, talk about, the sanctity of the law and then the independence of the judiciary, the people who are supposed, to uphold this independence are the one also.
Let me read something that the president. Let me read something that the president said, and let me get your reaction. He said, he gave reasons, of course, for the action, and part of what he said was, look, Nigeria is a constitutional democracy democracy, and no one can be or be seen to be above the law. No ordinary Nigerian can get the swift and the kind of support the CJN gets from his subordinates. As a government, we cannot stand and fold our hands helplessly. The effort of the executive will amount to nothing without the cooperation of the other arms, especially the judiciary. So the government is concerned about the suspected persons facing corruption trials. Suspected persons facing corruption trials now have been set from under the watch of the CJN. This has clearly defeated the effort of this administration to develop and prosper. It's against this background that I received the notice from the CCT directing me to suspend the CJN until final determination of the charges against him.
You see, the president in his statement is blowing hot and cold from the same mouth. In one breath, you say we operate a constitutional democracy. In another breath, you say the CJN enjoys support, of his subordinate, his constituency. And then you received an order from the CCT. And then one begin to wonder, at what point was the order made? And do you know, I feel so sad. Because if a judge of the High Court makes such an order, or a matter is in court, both lawyers are in court, and then after matter had been adjourned, an ex parte application suddenly surfaces. Do you know that the NJC will investigate such matter? But that the executive arm will sit down and do what we call Jankara in Lagos.
What do you expect the NJC to do about this? Because obviously, when you look at the
chairman,
because you look at the situ, you look at the fact that Justice Tanko has accepted to be the CJN clearly shows the judiciary itself is divided.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
There's division among judges because Justice Tanko, before now, was the deputy chairman of the NJC.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. That just the same way somebody acted instead of Justice Ayo Salami, the same way you're seeing, Justice Tanko acting in being appointed in acting capacity as a CJN in this matter. We agree. The judiciary is corrupt, just like every other arm of government in Nigeria. But you cannot fight corruption with corruption.
Let's look at this issue now from another point of view. Should the CJN have waited for this?
You see, Deji, what is at play here is high-wired politics and politics of ego. Right from the blast of the whistle, the call was the CJN should step aside. The CJN should step aside. Even if I were the CJN, what I would basically look, this is not my father's own. And so, if that's the way they want to do it, I'll quietly just leave. Just the same way, remember Justice Taslim Olawale Elias was sacked by the Murtala Mohammed administration and then almost immediately was appointed to the International Court of Justice. If I were in his shoes, that's what I would do. But there are power interplay here. Some people have the opinion that if he takes that decision, that means, that would be, align on doing interference with the concept of constitutional democracy and the internal workings of, an arm of government. And so, why that is at play, the executive feels, look, we need to do what we need to do. Anyhow we do it, we achieve it, we must do it. And for an onlooker or the international community, you look at what is playing out. You look at the steps that have been taken on both sides. You look at the two wrongs that are at play here. And are we not gradually preparing a recipe for chaos? Are we also not setting a very bad precedent? Unfortunately, those people who were the protagonists of Justice Ayo Salami's downfall years back are today the antagonists of this current drama. And the antagonists of that drama have suddenly become the protagonists. What it means is that power is transient. If you set a precedent, a bad one, you can never tell, when it will come to hurt you. And those who live in glass house should not throw stones.
What do you expect the NJC to do about this?
I really don't know. It's not about the NJC. It's about the entire judiciary, the bar and the bench. But unfortunately, we play politics with everything. And so, don't be shocked. Already, lawyers are, even some, those are in support of the government, will argue, will rationalize it. Those against, we also hold on to the provisions of the Constitution. But then for some of us who are in the middle, who have consistently been shouting, let's build structures that will outlive our children and our children's children. Some people will find a way to pigeonhole your argument into politics. But then the issue is, if the bar and the bench does not rise up now to set records straight and also take internal mechanism to begin to do self-cleansing.
But you look at
like
the way
you said, they will be providing stones for their enemies.
But you look at the way the case was going. You look at the way the case was going. Would you say justice was eventually going to be served? Because,
yes.
Hold on. Here was a man who was brought to the Code of Conduct Tribunal. First was to put up an argument that the Code of Conduct Tribunal had no jurisdiction. Second, several other cases sprang up from nowhere.
You know what?
Hold on. The Federal High Court, the Industrial Court, several cases sprang up from nowhere, and eventually
by senior lawyers.
By senior lawyers, and eventually the Court of Appeal also now said, look, stay action, don't do anything. You look at the entire process. You look at, did you ever? I know you're a lawyer anyway. Maybe it's not fair to ask you this question because I mean, the answer would probably be obvious. But you look at all of that. You think justice was going to be served?
I will look at it strictly from the point of view of law, and then also a little bit of morals, because like I have told
morality
you, if I
is
were,
also important.
But you find out that at every turn between ethics and morality, ethics always prevail. And that is why the society make laws anchored on moral, to give morality, ethical clothing. But when your laws are not anchored on ethics, your ethics are not anchored on moral, this is what you have consistently. And so, Justice Ajumogobia was charged to the Federal High Court by EFCC for bribery. And then when the Ngajuwa's case at the Court of Appeal was delivered, he filed an objection to the entire charge and he was discharged. And then subsequently the matter was taken before the NJC, and the NJC dismissed her. And that now gave the EFCC the power to rearrest her and charge her. Justice is on its way in that matter. Justice Ayo Salami's case also. Wait.
No, go. I understand. I understand your point. You're building a...
Yes, I'm building I'm laying a foundation.
Yeah.
Justice Ayo Salami's case also, even though it was obvious that it was between this President Court of Appeal, Justice Ayo Salami, and the then CJN, the NJC had recommended his suspension. The same NJC recommended his recall to the federal government against a sitting CJN. So that means the NJC ordinarily did justice in that matter, but even though the then government refused to abide by the decision of the NJC, which was illegal. And so in this same case, we had discussed this off record, and I had said, look, since almost 80% of the lawyers are saying that, look, even those that said you should do self-cleansing, but the procedure you are adopting, it's wrong, are saying you ought to go through the NJC. What do you do?
And you know,
now,
something about...
Quickly. You said something. It is obvious now that the NJC is not unanimous. And so there are some persons who are also not too happy with what is going on. So why don't you trust those members of the NJC?
At the end of the day, a court has actually not made any pronouncement at all on what the procedure should be. I mean, all we've heard are just opinions.
That's what I'm saying.
So to speak, opinions.
If the court had not made...
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah, but then... Since the matter is in court, why don't you also wait for the court to make that decision? I am saying why I took that route is that, look, for you not to avoid delays, if you want to be fastidious about it, you say, if I go through the NJC, it might take a longer route. But you're going through the CCT, and it seems to be taking even a longer route, because the moment a CCT makes a decision, definitely the next day there's going to be an appeal. And then the Court of Appeal and then the Supreme Court.
Let's face it, and let's also face it, even if this case had gone to the NJC, nothing would have prevented anybody from going to court, to stop the NJC from doing anything about it.
At that point.
No, I'm just saying, would anything...
No. And you can go to court to stop the NJC, but it's just like when you go to court to stop EFCC investigation or police investigation.
At
that point, 80% of the court, I didn't say 100, 80% of the court won't grant you such orders.
Well, you never can tell. You never can tell until it comes up. But anyway, very quickly, because we have to wrap this up now. Something very important I want us to talk about, but very briefly. the impression, and, you know, people have said it, and somehow it appears there's a point there that the problem of the Nigerian judiciary, especially problem of our judges, actually started when judges began getting appointed into, appointed to hear, election petition cases. I mean, it's common knowledge. It's common knowledge, for instance, that even before. But I'm just saying things just got worse.
Yes,
of course, the politicians.
I agree completely with you. If you remember, even the way some of these judges were appointed, you remember before 1999, it was cash and carry judgment. If you remember, even in Lagos State here, it was bad. It was terribly bad. You know, even before the election petition tribunal, the way some of them were appointed, condition of service was very abysmally poor. So it was bad. And you remember when Oladipo Dia said that he got to a point that judges will write to judgment, depending on how well you settle. Oladipo Dia made that statement as a number 2 person long ago. Remember Justice Kayode Esho saying that the way we were going, we're gradually creating billionaire judges.
That's what is happening. That's what is happening.
At the end of the day, the NGC asks them to go, they will gradually walk away. Remember the Otumba Kalajaye and the Justice Naron's issue at the Oshun Tribunal. And so with the tribunal, you know, it became that it was so bad that it was even alleged that judges lobbied to go to election petition tribunal. And these politicians, they know how they bribe judges. You know, and behind every allegation of corruption or bribery against a senior judge, there is a politician and there is a senior advocate who is a conveyor belt. And so they know themselves. And so for me, my worry is not that this is an attempt to cleanse the judiciary. No. If it's an attempt, a holistic attempt to actually do a cleansing of the judiciary using processes and procedures, walk in. But this is an attempt to feather certain nests. And that's where it's worrisome.
Liberal Oshoma, thank you very much for coming on the program. Let's just wait and see how all of this develops. But quite worrying, if you ask me. Quite worrying, no doubt. Quite worrying. Well, we'll take a short break, and when we come back, we'll switch to politics. And stay with us, don't go away. On Deji 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent.
Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that panel.
Deji 360, providing clarity to issues.